Men det gör ju ingenting med folkstämning, gör det? Nej. Ser du som det stämmer? Den längsta? Jo, men det är den. Men eftersom knappen är tryckta. Ja, det är det stämmer ingenting. Sorry everyone, it's our first time. We have a new streaming team. And it's our first time streaming without our technical stream team. Yeah, now I know. You're okay. You're live. Yeah.
Men ska jag säga välkommen först? Ja. Och så tar du varje. Du tränger så gå, du kommer här. Dear everyone, welcome. My name is Ragnhild Åmås. I'm the chair of UKS. I have Mette Karlsvik with me from Kulturdirektoratet and Johanne Locke, my deputy chair. And we are here today to launch the 9 to 5 Handbook for the Artist Assistant Scheme. As you might have noticed, we are doing the streaming today with the purpose of reaching our audience around the country. There's several artists around the country that we would like to reach with this information. So bear with us with the camera and the microphones for you who are here with us physically today. And I'm very happy to have the UKS team also here with Per doing the first time live streaming. Thank you so much for jumping into it. And also Miriam, who will be monitoring the questions and conversations happening over the YouTube channel. For you guys who are here, it's also important to know things like there are fire exits clearly marked above the doors. In case of any alarm, please follow them. We have more coffee and tea outside, and also the toilets are straight ahead as you exit the room, to your left. Other than that, we try to always make sure that you know who to talk to in case anything happens during the conversations or events that we have here. And if you have any uncomfortable experience, please talk with me about it afterwards. It could be anything. The program for today will be first an introduction to UKS's work with the handbook, which Johanne will do. And then we have a presentation by Mette with the details of how the scheme is structured and the process from the perspective of Kulturdirektoratet. We will also show you where to find the brand new translation on our webpage. And hello, welcome. And we will have a session of questions and answers after that. So please ask anything that you wonder about. Okay, so.
Thank you, Ragnhild. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see you. Also, those I'm seeing digitally in the cloud. Yeah, I'm a member of the board and the deputy chair at UKS. I also wrote these notes today while my 1-year-old was sleeping, so that's why I'm not 100% comfortable with them yet, so I'm going to use these. I hope that's okay. Go farther back, yeah. Okay, is that okay? Yeah, okay. So I'm really glad to be here to launch the English translation of the handbook, especially since our Norwegian original handbook did not really get a proper launch, which was actually due to the introduction of student fees, which then, yeah, I'm gonna get back to a little bit later. So I just want to say first that work with this handbook and work is obviously something that the board and the annual General Assembly at UKS have decided that we are gonna do to make this handbook and to translate it and so on. But I have to say first that it's really, I think, especially close to my heart. I have been part of this scheme quite early, and I think the experience of being in a place where you sort of don't really know where your future as a young artist is going, you have like a lot of random side jobs as like Foodora careers, tillkallingsvikar in kindergarten and so on, and things feel a bit meaningless. This, like getting this scheme for me was really yeah, it was really, really meaningful. So therefore, I think I care a lot. Yeah, I care a lot about it because I see personally the big difference it can make, maybe especially in the young artists, the newly established artists' practice, from my perspective. So UKS has been doing stuff with this scheme for a really long time. It's now, this year, it's 10 years ago that we first proposed it to the Minister of Culture. And in 2017, it was launched. Probably we'll talk a little bit more about it. And I'm not going to really say much more what the scheme is about, because Mette is going to say that. But it was quite quickly clear that this scheme was a bit of like a strange bird in in the Arts Council Norway, because usually stipends are paid out as honorariums, as project grants and so on, but in this case it's lønn, it's a salary, and with a salary comes employer responsibility. So what we figured out, and what Kulturdirektoratet also figured out quickly, was that artists don't really know how to employ people properly. You know, when you don't just pay them a freelance honorarium, you actually have to give them salaries. So it was quite quickly clear that there had to be kind of like a education in the arts field to educate artists to become employers. And so that was the intention with this handbook. In addition, of course, to informing the newly established artists, like what are actually your rights? Do you have the right to holiday pay? What happens if you get sick? What happens if your kid gets sick? And so on. Stuff that I think a lot of us don't really know, because none of us have like 100% positions during our life. It's such a patchwork economy. So all of the very practical information in the handbook is of course important, but what I like the most is the management of expectations, which perhaps you guys will get to. They say that all the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I really believe that. That was also, I think, an issue that Kulturdirektoratet saw when employer relationships went a bit awry, that there was a lack of basically clearing up, like, what do you expect from this working relationship? And a working relationship where you just have an employer and an employee is really vulnerable. You're just two people. There's no HR department. There's no tillitsvalgt. Sorry that I'm using Norwegian words. I hope it's okay. So there's no one else as kind of a buffer if things start to go a bit sour, or if you disagree on some things. So that's also why I think the part that I'm proudest of in the handbook is our list of questions that I hope you all will use, even just with someone you might apply with, to see if you are compatible at all. It's best to do that, you know, before you get into a working relationship, and then you're kind of maybe stuck in a situation that isn't entirely good. So better to make the relationship with all of the information you can get. As I said, I'm almost done, I promise. As I said, the introduction of fees for students from outside the EU and EEA came at the same time as we were writing this handbook. And unfortunately, what that means is that it's a bit sad to say, but I think that this English translation is now a little bit less relevant than it would have been if these student fees had been repealed. Because now what we're looking at is really an arts field that is a bit less diverse, no, actually a lot less diverse, and where there will be less of a need for an English translation. Though I still think it's still obviously very important, but I'm just saying that to say that, of course, free education for all. And so far, it's still a sort of diverse art scene. I think as I'm witnessing here today, I'm really happy to see it's a good and diverse crowd, if that's okay to say. And I still think there's a really big need for having all of this information like collected about basically what are all of your rights as an employer, and what are your duties as an employee. No, sorry, the other way around. What are your duties as an employer and your rights as an employee? It's still really important, I think, to have that gathered also for your other working relationships. And therefore we are incredibly glad to have gotten money from you guys, both for the handbook and also for this translation. And I should say that we would also wanted to translate it to Sápmi. Did not get enough money, but we will, if I can, if it's okay to call you out, Reisa, we will have launch in a while, like Sami contribution to the handbook that Reisa, who is sitting there, is responsible for. So yes, you can look forward to that. And I think that was it. Thank you so much. And I will now hand over to Mette and to Ragnhild.
Yes. I think we should first show you where to find it and how it looks now. So, locating the arrow. For now, you have it here, and simply press the image to download it. I, of course, have already done that. So, here we go. Nice and pink. A handbook to the artist assistant scheme. Pretty easy to navigate, and as Johanna so nicely put it, I think it's still important to have these translations. As we see, even we mess up employer-employee. Like, how difficult can it also then be the other way around, right? You will find all you ever wanted to know about the difficulties and the pleasures of being in a working relationship, I would say. Well, let's turn to Mette. Yes.
Tusen takk.
Mette, you could let me know when you want me to switch the slides.
Yes.
And I think we just go from there. How is the image? Does it work with the lights on in the room? Great.
It's so pretty. Congratulations. And yes, it's there is some grant from Kulturdirektoratet to develop and to produce these books. But it's like a gift to Direktoratet as well, because our administration of this scheme is a lot easier with these handbooks. So we're very grateful. Thank you and congratulations. So my name is Mette Kalsvik, and I have been working on this grant scheme for a couple of years. And I'm sure a few of you guys know Inger Eri. She was like one of the parents of this grant scheme, and UKS was the other grant scheme parent. So for the full history, I think we'll just have to ask Stefan at some times. He should give the big talk on the history. I understand it's been laborious and with lots of lobby work, which is the main job really, because this grant scheme was given fresh money, which is very rare. So it was a very good thing. And I'm having to say sorry that my slides are in Norwegian. I didn't really connect. I'm so sorry. But of course there would be an English understanding audience, mainly, since it's an English translation.
Yeah.
So sorry, but
I can also apologize since we didn't specifically ask you.
No, you
to
didn't.
produce
But
that. Yeah.
I should have deduced. I'll try my best to translate simultaneously. So you can just switch. The artwork that I show will be done by artists in the scheme, established artists or assistants. And I'm going to talk through this pretty quickly because practical information you can, on an individual basis, look up in the handbook. You know, it's so easy to control F and search in that document. So I think we'd rather have the opportunity to ask questions, because that's very often where the most interesting thing happens. But I'll talk through it. So yeah, we'll just flip through them quickly.
And is this is it Lotte?
Yeah, this is Lotte Konavlen. Yeah, and she made it during a period where she had an assistant. Yeah. Okay, so I want to say a bit about what the grant scheme is, but the main thing often is to make people think about whether it is the right grant scheme for you, as Johanna was kind of touching upon. It may not be the right system for everybody, or it could definitely be a right system, but you didn't know that you actually had a hidden talent for being an employer as an established artist. Because that's often where the critical point is. Not all applicants understand that what's expected from them is to be an employer, and that what they're also expected to bring home after the year is professionalizing as an employer. So you don't have to have a talent to apply, but an interest to learn to be an employer, and the motivation to fulfill that role. And a bit about what kind of qualities in the applications that the committee is looking for. We have new guidelines, or terms and conditions. How would you translate? Retningslinjer? Guidelines?
Guidelines, I would say.
Yeah.
And we heard that you made use of the first handbook in shaping this.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, we did.
Mm.
Yeah. No, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't. It was the evaluation. It might be. Okay, let me have a think. Because the guidelines, it could be. I just have to track back. It's been a while since I've been looking at them. Do you remember the details?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take it.
I think it was like sort of like nuances of like, how to interpret this.
Yes. I was, but what I know for sure is that we found, because after 5 years of functioning, we evaluated the grant scheme, and the scientists the researchers that did the check of it said groups should definitely be able to apply or duos. So that's kind of more explicit now in the guidelines. So that's like the main change. Okay, so we'll just jump into it. So the grant scheme is an established artist is the applicant, but as an assistant or potential assistant, you can of course help the established artist. And that, I say that because it happens a lot, but formally it happens a lot that the assistant does provide with some content to the application, and some things the assistant must provide, like CV and statement and so on. And before you could apply for 1 or 2 years at once, but committee they don't want to do that. It's happened once that somebody had a 2-year given to them at once. So it would be a disadvantage for the assistant to have a two-year at once kind of grant, because the payment for year number 2 would be the same as year number 1 in the budget. So we just cut that. You can still have for 2 years, but you apply for 1 year at a time, and then you have the increase in the level of the.
So what we call indexregulering in Norwegian would be like the general increase of cost in society would be compensated for into the second year.
Yes,
likely.
Yes, and of course, the honorary. My English is lønn på engelsk. Salaries, yeah, because it's following the governmental salary scheme.
It's actually like interesting this with this what to call it, salary or fee, and our English translator actually made us aware that it's the Norwegian phrasing lønn encompasses several different types of salary and fee, and this has actually been disambiguated a bit in the English translation.
That's revolutionary. I didn't know that about the Norwegian word lønn. Okay,
Learning through doing.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for that. So what the established artist gets is all of it goes to costs around this employment. There might be a little rest after the fees, the salary has been paid, and the social taxes and the things around that's obligatory to pay out. If there is a rest, the established artist can keep that. But what it will be called in the budget is administration and work with the the calculus. And of course, as Johanne said, the main goal is to professionalize both parts, but in their respective stages in their artistship. And of course, the exchange of knowledge and I kind of take for granted that you know something about that, but I can go like deeper into it. Like the main goal of this grant scheme is really things regarding the assistant. It is the assistant's artistship that's kind of in focus. And I will come back to that when I say what the committee is looking for, because they're really looking for what is the potential in the assistant here, and what is the potential for the growth in the assistant, as well as, of course, what can the assistant do for the established artist, because it's a goal that they're gonna have a lift, both of them, economically, obviously, but also in terms of level of competence and skills. So in this, there's a lot of things that should match or work. So there's it's kind of imperative that the applicant works on this part of the pros in the application, like how are we compatible, and be explicit about it, because the committee will be kind of helpless if it's not being kind of unfolded for them, because most of the time they're not gonna know the established artist personally, or know much about the artist, or know the assistant. So it is important to just verbalize it, like totally just bokstavisere det. don't be shy in the application. That's kind of just use that text box to unwrap things about both the social side and what's got to do with the professional life. Yeah, and with the social side, I of course mean what's the relevant social life, like introducing the assistant to a network, and those kind of work-related things, as well as the compatibility in the workshop. Ja, kan du gå videre? Ja.
Yeah.
So, is it the right grant scheme for you? Meaning, if you're the established artist, am I interested in trying to be an employer, and do I want to bother with all this, these taxes and employment taxes, and make sure everything is correct? When it comes to the assistant, of course, the assistant has to be an employee and has to accept to be given tasks and take that role, but also the mutual exchange to be given and to develop, but also to share one's own artistship. So you were talking about responsibilities and rights, and you say the employer has responsibilities and employee has rights, but it is kind of both ways as well. In the same way as it's both ways when it comes to who's really learning from who. Like the younger assistant will definitely have a lot to learn to the, often it is like that. Da kan du gå videre. So the committee, when they choose the 14 applicants and their assistants, they will almost as number one look to their respective understandings of the roles as an employer and an employee, and also about the expectations, which is really important to clear. And the application is a good, gives the committee that kind of picture of what are their expectations. Is this realistic? Are they gonna work well together, and so on? And then, of course, the artists. Does the committee want to spend these amounts of money on these artists? Are these artistships interesting enough? So they're looking for different qualities in both the established artist and the assistant. And then there's the Arts Council, the guys on top of the Culture Fund, Sigmund Løvaasen and those dudes, Kulturrådet. They're kind of like, they're my bosses, because I'm their secretary in many ways. So they have strategies. The Arts Council and the Culture Fund is politicized. And they have always a very explicit policy, which is, for example, stated in the strategy. And it is to be found in their webpage. I think you can go to kulturdirektoratet.no first, and from there you can go to Kulturrådet, which is the Arts Council, and find the strategy. And it's about to be changed. They have a strategy that's ending this year, but they have not finished the new strategy yet. So it might take like half a year, maybe in 2025. And some of their strategic areas is diversity, climate for expression, room for expression, safe rooms for expression. And the committee will look for ways to choose applications in all grant schemes all over the Culture Fund in order to help the Arts Council to fulfill this strategy, and also in the artist assistance scheme, even though it's an odd bird, or I don't remember your term, but it was very precise. It's a different scheme, but even there. But the thing is, the committee never has to do a very hard job to get diversity in the portfolio in this grant scheme, because it's the most diverse grant scheme we have in all ways, in terms of media and genres and disciplines and the backgrounds of the artists and their cultural perspectives and so on. So yeah, so it is there. And also they will look at the whole bunch of applications as a whole. When they first, they'll just choose the ones the 14 best, as in following these criteria, and then they'll look at the mix of them, like, oh, all 14 from Oslo, that doesn't work. So then they have to take a second round and look for, that kind of criterium. Can be. So there is a new scheme now, a new form, because we're changing system, and this grant scheme is the third grant scheme of all that's trying the new form. So you're kind of those that want to apply may meet some beginning problems in the system and some technical problems, so please don't hesitate to contact support. They're very good in English, so you can write them an email, or I didn't write the phone number there, but it's on the webpage to the support.
I guess this also then entails beginning early.
Yes. That's a very good one. They're very strict with a deadline. But if nevertheless you're having problems up until deadline, and you see it's not going to work, you have to get through to support, because they're the only ones that can in some ways make a decision if you can have an extended deadline. They're the only ones that can keep the port open for the applications to come in. It does not work I don't have the myndighet, I'm not authorized to say, okay, you have technical problems, it's okay, you can send, you can use another hour, but they have the authorization to do that. And when it comes to the obligatory attachments, please collect them in 2 PDFs, unless they get too big. Sometimes they do, then you have to split them. It's because the committee, they have so many applications to scroll through, and we have a bad system. So they get really tired in their fingers to do all the clicks, but if and then they get like grumpy, and that's not a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Da kan du hoppe videre. So it seems to me it's mainly potential assistance here, but I don't know who's listening online. So
Yeah, it could be more established artists online, and I think also that often, even if the case is that the more established artist is the one to fill out the information, having good support and pointers from this possible assistance is often also the case, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe the best kind of advice I can give to the established artist, the applicant, is to show your interest in the assistant, because there is a tendency that the applications are a lot about the artist, him or herself, or and it's positive to be explicit about what interests you with the assistant, and show knowledge about the artistship of the assistant. That's a lot more kind of believable, and it gives a committee of the feel that it's going to work in a close relationship, work and social relationship. And again, this thing about expectations is, as I said, be explicit about it and use some prose on it, and don't be greedy on your kind of just pour your thoughts about how you're going to be compatible and so on into it. And what kind of employer or employee do you think you will be? And of course also about your artistship. And all about your artistship is of course interesting.
Could I ask you at that point, is it more interesting with what you have done or where you are heading?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say almost half-half. And some applications don't get that. So they're very heavy on the plans. Actually, no. It happens really that they're very heavy on the plans and not on the CV. Normally, the CV and the portfolio is well, because most artists do have, it's a drill, right? That they're gonna show earlier works, especially the established artist. A bit more, sometimes not so much with the assistant, but make sure that as an assistant you too do have a broad portfolio. Even though maybe you haven't had so many exhibitions, it's the committee wants to see your work anyways. But the plans are super wichtig, super important. That was Tulle English. It was like a joke English. I was mixing some Norwegian. Yeah.
We have a question in the chat, and I'll just ask you to repeat the question.
I can repeat it, and Mette can have the time to think about it, perhaps.
For the people watching at home.
Yeah.
So the question is this only for applicants with master's degrees, or is it possible for an assistant with a bachelor's degree? And if so, do you have tips for applicants who just have bachelor's degrees?
So the question for the stream then was if it's possible to apply to the scheme only if you have a master's, or if you also can apply to it as an artist having a bachelor's degree. It's not clear whether this is in the position as the established artist or as the assistant, but I think that perhaps doesn't matter so much. Yeah.
And also if you only have a bachelor's, what's the second part of the question?
Tips.
Yeah, if there are tips in the case of having only a bachelor's, in case that is important or not.
As far as I remember, but I have to take on the premise. I'm a mother to a small child, so sometimes I don't remember so well. It's not explicit in the guidelines that your last degree has to be a master's. I think it just says the criterion for being in the establishing period, the assistant criterion, is that you're it's 5 years after your last relevant artistic degree. And as far as I remember, it's not specified. So it could be a bachelor. And I think I remember to have seen somebody being granted an assistant that only had a bachelor. Actually, I'm looking at her right now. When it comes to the established artist, it is not even specified that the established artist has to have had a relevant artistic education. what is specified is that he or she must have worked professionally as an artist at least 5 years. But there is somewhere you filling out when you did your artistic degree. So again, I don't have the guidelines like totally under my skin, but I think that's the case. I think you can apply as an established artist without the degree, but there is nevertheless this little place where you have to fill in. So what you do if you don't have a degree, you just keep that open, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But send me an email as well, and I'll check the guidelines tomorrow. I'll show my email after. Okay, we can go on. So the main difference in the scheme this year, as opposed to earlier, if there's somebody who's doing this for the second time, or maybe even have done it more times, there is some already filled out spaces in the budget. We saw a potential to make the budget simpler. Originally, it was up to the established artist, the applicant, to do all the maths and to know a lot of things in a way as a test, right? Because you were going to do this in the application to show the committee that at least you can do the maths in the when it comes to those kind of things.
I'm happy to hear it was intentional. Yes.
But the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? We just thought, we'll just make it simpler. And one of the main things to make it simpler is that we have dropped. We don't do the holiday money thing. Originally, we follow the law for the governmental, the law for holiday money, which is supposed to be this and this % of the full grant. And but there was a lot of insecurities around that, because in the real world, the holiday money was not to be paid out before it has been worked up. So yeah. Anyways, that's the background. You don't have to know that. We have baked that amount of money with the salary, and we just split it in 12. So you just pay the same 12 rates every month. And also we will fill in the salary. And the reason is because the intention was to pay the assistant level 50 in this scale. Of course, half in 50% occupation. But what happens is that the assistant will be paid too little, because in the budget it's the niveau for the application year that's filled out, but the assistant will work the following year, but will not have the.
Then the adjustment wouldn't have been calculated yet.
Yeah. So we still use this niveau 50, but we plus, I think we plus 4%, and we pre-fill it out. And there's also a pre-filled out pension, I think. How do you say in English? Is it? Yeah, yeah. Before also there was some insecurities, because the law says it's not obligatory with pension when it's such a small occupation. And we did some rounds on it in the committee, in the Arts Council, and people wanted that to be a part of it, because of the things that you say, you know. This is more than just the artist work. It's also to show that artists can be employed and have all the social rights. So the budget is simpler, and some things are pre-filled, and also we have made the arbeidsgiveravgift, the employer tax, simpler to fill out, because we have made some we had some, it's not me who's the math genius, but somebody made some codes behind the budgets. Yeah.
So less obstacles, it sounds like.
I hope. Yeah. There's going to be obstacles enough being an employer, I guess. So why make it more heavy? Yeah. Okay, so this is just this year. The salary is 260,000 this year, and this just says that the holiday money is gone. It's part of this. So this is split in 12, and then there will be 14.1% employer tax if you live in Oslo, which is this from this, and then you have to find what it costs to have the insurance as an employer for your employee. It's often between 2,000 and 3,000 kroner, I think. And then it's the pension, 2,000 out of the whole sum. And then you, depending on what this is, you'll have a sum, and you get this grant, 325 Norwegian kroner, and you subtract that, and then you have some money left for the administration, and that goes to the established artist, which is normally somewhere between nothing and 30,000 kroner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another work by an established artist that had assistant.
And your last slides goes to some common questions.
Yeah. So, for what can you write me an email and ask about? You can, as an established artist, anything to do with the grant scheme, except the technical sides of it, the application, everything that's got to do with de faglige spørsmåla. The professional questions, but not the technical questions. After the contract has been signed and you're working together, it's unfortunately not possible to ask the Arts and Culture Norway for help with potential conflicts, not even if it's a question of harassment or like really grave and serious things.
But the UKS Handbook has a lot of resources and advices on how to deal with that, and you can always also make contact with us.
Yeah, you have a lot broader room to deal with those things, but we don't have the authority to go into that kind of questions, unfortunately. And as you were, Johanna, you were touching on this thing that there's a potential for problems because there is a power element in so many ways, employer, employee, but also the niveau in where you're standing in your career, and and that's also why we're drilling the committee over and over again to not be blind about the qualities in the artistships, but also regard the social sides and the understanding of the role as an employer, in specifically as an employer. Yeah, so glad to have UKS. I know you've helped in a couple of cases. Yeah. Sometimes people want to pay fees, honoraries instead of salary, not within this grant scheme. It's a point made here about being employed. Can the assistant apply? No, the assistant can help the established artist, but the established artist must send the application. So what if you're from outside the EU, EUS? EEA, thank you. And have not yet gotten, or maybe not even applied for a permit for staying and working. You apply for the grant scheme, or the established artist does apply with you as an assistant, and you apply for the permit. In the application, you just add anything that can kind of show the committee that there's a process begun. And if you're being granted the scheme, the grant, it will be given with apprehension that it will not be paid to the established artist. The first part of it will not be paid unless the permit can be shown. So then you'll just have to wait, and that happens a few times. And it's happened once actually that it never came, and it was really like heartbreaking. But most of the time finally it comes, and there's a whole year. The established artist can wait a whole year before he or she signs and gets. But the established artist can't sign the contract with us before the permit is on the table. So that's kind of strict, unfortunately. Yeah.
But it's also interesting with regards to your final question there, like at what time does the year of the assistancy begin? And it sounds to me that it's a lot more flexible in a way than many of the other schemes of the Art Council.
Yeah, it's more flexible than the stipends that's given by, granted by...
the grants.
I think. Or maybe not. Maybe they're flexible too, but we're more flexible than most people think. The only thing which is a bit funny, and it doesn't need to be like this, but the thing is that you have the application date in December, right? And then the committee meets like late February, and best case, I can send out the contracts at beginning of March. Which is kind of corny, right? You'd rather maybe have it so that it can be solved just before Christmas, so that you knew by January, so you had a whole year. And that it can be changed actually. It is possible to change to, because we have a September due date too. Could be. I'll think about that maybe in dialogue with you guys. What do you think to that? You can have a think about that. But you can't, the established artist can't, in the application, state the start date. That's before the contract can come. So to be sure, the established artist should say 1st of April, for example, if that's possible. If it's not possible until June because somebody's finishing their PhD or their MFA, you say June, right? Or whatever. But within that calendar year, if you're kind of rounding a whole year and state that in the application, the committee may say, oh, they may as well apply next year. So yeah. So it's flexible, but within some reasonable frames. Yeah. I think that was the last one.
Well, your very last one is a bunch of resources.
This one's important. And that's more important actually. Like the very useful handbook made by UKS. And you'll find some resource pages at the NAV og Skatteetaten, Arbeidstilsynet, those links are also on the grant scheme information page on Kulturdirektorat's webpage. And don't hesitate to contact me on email. I answer rather quickly. Yeah. Now that I'm in town.
Well, thank you so much, Mette. And I also have to thank my predecessors in UKS for having worked with this. Being like fairly fresh into this role, I can only like marvel at all the hard work and be very grateful for it. Let's see. I would now suggest that we open up for the case of further questions, and yeah, Ina? Yes.
Maybe to specify that the thing that was you said was new in the guidelines about groups or duos.
Oh yeah. Sir, can you come over here for the microphone? Maybe is it?
Well, it was
just
a
so that they can hear it, so she doesn't have to. Or is it stupid?
Maybe we can bring one of the microphones down.
Yeah.
Oh, that was what
Yes.
I thought I was going
Yes.
to
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's fine.
You can stand behind me. Just so Ragnhild is not.
Hello. So it was just regarding the new kind of change to the guideline that you mentioned about groups and duos and so on. And I was just wondering if you could specify whether that's concerning the established artist only, or what happens if the assistant has a group or a duo artistic practice, and whether the way it's structured with the salaries and so on means that they would have to, only one of them could apply, but could still apply with like the joint artistic practice, or if like, for instance, a duo would be allowed to apply as an assistant in the assistant role, let's say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a super relevant and really good question, and I can answer it. Yay! Even though the guidelines are a bit ambiguous, because they all consistently call the assistant not in plural but in singular. So a strict interpretation of the guidelines would say no, right? But in practice, the committee doesn't see it like this, obviously. Obviously, they have a more progressive understanding of an artist, right? It can also be like an artistship, which can be, as you implicating, a duo or a group. And we had the last application round. We finally got an application from a collective, an established artist, den uferdige institusjon, that applied with 2 assistants. So they were kind of stretching in all directions. And this application was just brilliant in the way it was really kind of showing the practicalities of it. Like, how are they going to manage this economically, practically. They designated one contact person within den uferdige institusjon that was being the contact person for the assistants. And it was just quite an extensive application that, showed both artistships with assistants and had like full packs of information on both of them, and they just split the salary. So it was 25-25. And it was convincing enough because the committee would, of course, instantly ask themselves, well, are the assistants going to be taken care of within this structure that has been, and they were convinced it would be done so. So they were given grants. And I've not heard any problems. Rather the opposite, but who knows. Normally we do get to know if there is some problems.
Hi, I have a question regarding to outside EU. For example, like international artists, as an assistant, if they apply, for example, me, if I apply, I can't like get hired because of my visa. I'm a self-employed visa. So if, for example, if I have found some artists who want to have this combined assistant relationship, but I can't get hired, otherwise I will lose my visa. Or yeah, so is that possible to like freelance work for an artist? Or yeah, I don't know if the question
If
is
you
clear.
can freelance within the scheme.
Yeah.
No, it's a scheme that's, if I understand this right, I think the answer is no, that it is an employment system. But maybe I understand wrongly.
Yeah, it's like there is a. Yeah.
So the question is if there's any
Okay.
leeway within the scheme, as far as I
Yeah.
understand, to work around this.
Yeah.
It's
No,
quite
not this
tricky
scheme.
because
Yeah.
if I have like the working visa, I have to have like up to 80% kind of job, and this is 50. And then the international artists actually can't apply this. Sorry.
Can this apply for example, the applicant? Can the applicant be applying this scheme as company instead of individual? Because if that's the case, then you are a self-employer visa, it can be covered.
I'm really sorry about the laws when it comes to permits. It's not my field of competence, so I'm not going to try to answer when it comes to that kind of things you're into now, like those percentages and so on. So
but perhaps Johanna can say some things because we have the specific 6th chapter.
Yes, so I should have said, I didn't say. In the Norwegian Handbook, we have a 6th chapter that some of you may have read, which is the only chapter in English that wasn't included in this. It was kept just in the Norwegian one because it was already in English, didn't need to be kind of translated again. So you will find it there, or I can help you find it afterwards. And that chapter is written by Rodrigo Gattas, maybe some of you know him. And he kind of made a Q&A for applicants from outside EU, EEA that sort of details the visa process and how it kind of aligns with the scheme. And I sort of have to say as Mette that it isn't really very compatible, unfortunately. I do know artists who have been assistants who are from outside of the EU, EEA, and if you want, I can ask them how they did it and maybe get in touch with you, or if someone else is interested, and I can sort of make a connection and ask how that was possible for them, because it isn't really, as you say, it isn't really compatible with the way your visa is set up. But let me know and I can try to put you in touch. Yeah, okay.
is it correctly understood if the rules have changed lately? Because I have it seems to be an observation that there's more problems with this now than before. But it is really not my field of competence. But we have had a lot of assistance from outside EU, EEC before. Yeah.
And now you experience that it's problematic.
No, well, there are still applicants and there are still assistants, but I don't know the details as to how they have gotten their permits. It could be other kind of permits. So yeah, But it just seems there's been more questions about it. I've gotten some more questions about it, but I'm not able to answer them, so I just have to forward them to the right authorities. Yeah.
Do you also put them in touch with verdensrommet?
Haven't done that, but that's a very good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the stream, I'm asking if they're also put in touch with verdensrommet, who work specifically with these cases. Of course, they are not funded as such, but I'm sorry, I'm also in the situation of motherhood with small children, so my English is failing me when it comes to the notion of they are en interesseorganisasjon som ikke mottar pengestøtte.
Yeah, non-government organization. Yeah, well, maybe you said that already. I just suddenly remembered I'm actually taking my kid to karate and myself. So I'm gonna have to go. I'm so sorry.
But yeah.
Questions really quickly.
Yes.
Hi. Do you have to have a degree if you want to apply as an assistant?
Yes.
Yes.
But as we said earlier, and as far as I remember, it's not specified in the guidelines very much as to what the degree has to be. I think I remember it's formulated, articulated somewhat like relevant artistic degree, but it's not specified as far as I remember whether it's a bachelor or a MA or anything really.
I read that you have to have 5 years minimum of experience or something
As an established artist.
as the
Yeah.
artist. Okay.
Yes.
But if you're not finished with your degree, then you cannot apply to the scheme.
No. But the guidelines are, they're kind of ambiguous. I'm kind of realizing that now. So let's say you've not finished your MA degree, but you have a bachelor degree. I think, in principle, you could apply with that bachelor degree. But of course, you would not have an assistant position and finishing your master's. That's not compatible.
Do you have to wait 5 years after the bachelor's degree, or could the practice also be like before you were finished the bachelor? Say you are 1 year from after a bachelor's degree, but you have been an artist for 8 years.
You're talking as an established artist?
No, as the assistant.
As an assistant, the criteria are that one, you have a relevant degree, or in an artistic degree, and it's 5 years or less since you graduated. So after 5 years, you're no longer regarded in the establishing phase. Then you're an established, not being established. Was that clear? Yes. Yeah. Of course, in the logics of bureaucracy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mette, for your time and being here with us, answering questions and telling us about the scheme. I will let you be able to go deliver your kid to karate.
It's actually myself.
But you guys can hang around and ask us more questions if you want. But I think we will also say goodbye to the live stream at this point. But please do reach out to us if there's anything you wonder about, or Mette if she is the correct place, or the technicians at the Arts Council if they are the correct place to ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so many good questions.